2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Hands up. Reach down to your right, to your left, center, and exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right, to your left, center. Inhale, exhale. Again, one more time. Hands up, down, right, left, center, and down. Okay, hands in your waist. Circular movements. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center. Hold your knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Okay, hands on your waist, neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2. Center circular movements. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Center. Hands up. Pull in. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, stretch out a little. So, yeah, just switch. Don't know. So if you're fairly new at this and the stretching isn't something you're used to. Just take it easy. Don't force yourself. Um, so, Kim, your friend is, what's her name? Abby? Yeah. So, yeah, so she's just take it slow. So some of the stretching could be a little bit more extreme than you expect, but just do what you can. Then we straighten out the front knee and switch. We switch. 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 And switch. Just okay, switch one more time. And go to Santa. And squat down if you can. Just go alternate the legs. Okay, so now shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in waist. Shoulder roll. Reverse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and stop. Okay, press, release, exhale, inhale, and stop. Deep breathing, inhale, wrists. Reverse. And down. Bigger circle. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Shake it out. Go from side to side. Okay, so on a switch, up, lift. Kind of point the toe down. And okay, insert needle. Gonna go up and down. And switch. And okay, shake it out. Okay, we're gonna do the leg swing, but we're gonna alternate the hands. Kick in the right leg. Switch. Gonna swing the arm. Okay, so on a side to side. and sana. Switch. And sana. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Okay, so grilling. Switch. Okay, open and close. Switch. And sana. Okay, preparation. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. Okay, palms down. Extend. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Switch. Okay, Sana. Cloud hands. Lift up, carry tiger to the mountain. Okay, infinity. Okay, form the fist. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute. Okay, turn. Draw the bow. Okay, scoop down. Fan through the back. Okay, raise the hand. Okay, palms down. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So we're going to go through the short form called the Tai Chi Paradigm. And so Mine, you want to come up and he can lead it. And then I'm going to change my mask. I'll be right back. It's a little itchy. Oh, here's Rob. Okay, just go through the short form, yeah? I'll be back in a second. Do the form. They're doing the Tai Chi form now. The short form. How's it out there? Of a series of postures. So right now that's called leopard and tiger springs to mountain. This is called preparation for the fist under elbow. Next we have repulse the monkey. So it's like brush knee, but it's going backwards. Hand movements are um, tied together. So it's a downward movement and a forward push. A lot of the transitions that you see are actually tied to the forward and backward adjustment of the legs. So you see the flexing of the front knee and the straightening of the knee is actually how it helps to improve balance and also to strengthen the legs. Tai Chi is a weight-bearing exercise, so while people are going through the movements, they're constantly shifting the weight, going forward and back. That's called fan through the back. That's part of the drills that we do. This is Parry and Punch. It's a forward movement. Tai Chi although it's just called Tai Chi, the full name for Tai Chi is Tai Chi Chuan or Tai Chi Kun, Tai Get Kun, which is really Tai Chi fist. And because traditionally Tai Chi is a martial art, there's a lot of applications applied to these movements. It's the functionality of movement. This is a carry tiger to the movement form. That's a posture. They cross the hands. So in the Tai Chi Paradigm sequence, we have a lot of left-handed movements that don't appear in the long form, because the long form is typically geared to people that are doing more of a right-sided movement. So this is grasp the sparrow's tail left side. And then you have the left side single whip, which you don't have in the traditional long form. So that just gives you practicing for it, gives you a little bit more balance in motion and movement. And because we use this form more as an exercise for prevention of age-related degeneration, learning a sequence helps to build sequential memory, helps to build brain plasticity, because I call it the physical side of learning. And when we learn physically, we not only have to memorize it in the mind, but we also take that information and it's digested, and meaning that you begin to understand it and you share these thoughts with the body, and the body begins to learn and assimilates the movements that what we capture visually. So most of us, we're learning this is going to copy the movement, but the important thing is that understanding why you would do it is actually more important than just how you do it in the beginning. Because if you know why you do it, then the tendency is to do it and strive to be better at it, because there is truly a benefit. Usually Tai Chi, if you're focused and interested in learning it, it's usually a long-term practice, and people that practice for a long time really begin to experience and discover the true benefits that Tai Chi offers. If you do it as a recreational exercise, which most people do, you still have to do it a few times a week to get any benefit from it. But the thing is, without doing it, we're creatures of habit. We really can't get the experience, because creatures of habit means they'll have to do something over and over again to get any value out of the movements. So some of the things that we talk about is the geometry of position, triangles, circles, and squares. So if you look at your skeletal structure, essentially we just have joints that are either hinge joints or ball and socket joints, and then you have the combination of that where you can manipulate your hands for dexterity. Your feet have a tremendous amount of bones in it that actually do all kinds of things that allow you to stand on your feet and allow you to use those structures like the trusses in a bridge. Bridge, when you see a bridge, it's got all these cross pieces in it. Well, your feet have to do that too, kind of, to support you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any agility of your footwork. You wouldn't be able to move if you didn't have all these little bones there. So you were standing just on a platform, you wouldn't be able to go anywhere. You wouldn't be able to run. You wouldn't be able to jump. You wouldn't be able to do any of those things. But because we have this ability, the hands and the feet are kind of similar, in what it would be doing. There's sensitivity in the palms of your hand. There's sensitivity in the soles of your feet. You have 5 digits here. You have 5 digits on each foot there. And, we don't use our toes as functionally as we do as our hands. But, if, there are people that, end up having to use their feet in the same way as we use our hands if they, become amputees, or they can't use, they don't have arms. They would be able to use their feet. I've seen many people in China using their feet to thread needles and actually do embroidery. So that's a skill that you would never think you would use your feet for, but if you don't have arms, that's you can train your body to do that because it's still a motor skill. And what actually drives movement is what the brain tells it to do, and it's not telling it to do. It's actually programmed to get those little muscles working the way they're supposed to. So it's really a programmed sequential event. So we do this type of thing, and really helps us in that way. So let's do the long form. Bonnie, you want to do it out here? And we got Robin back. These, 3 of the 4 people here and doing the form are actually instructors or at that teacher level. So, you get to see people doing it, not like novice doing it. So you get to see better form because we learn through visuals. So watch closely, watch their feet, watch their legs, watch their torso, and everything moves. Okay, ready? Begin. So that's preparation. Sink the elbow, relax the shoulders. You see, these are concepts. Vertical, center line. Horizontal, which is the circle, turn the corner. We step up the vertical, triangular position to rounding, horizontally, slanting on the oblique, downward, and going forward. Movements are created and generated based on how we maneuver and manipulate our skeletal structure. Shift, step up, a lot of leg work, and we step up and raise the hand. Bend from the waist, stork flaps wings. Then we turn. So this is just like the form you just saw, because these are the beginning sections with the postures. That's brush, knee, and push. Identifying the postures is what helps you understand that the sequence is made up of these groupings of movements. Brush knee is done 4 times. Brush knee and push is done 4 times. In this section of the form, it happens, in other parts of the form, but this is one of the major postures. It works with the right and left side. Ultimately, we want to integrate the body so that we have a synchronization. The hands and legs move constantly as a relationship. Let's close the door. We form the fists and we punch. We sit back, divert, block, and punch. Now there's a consistency in movement, and we see the practitioners are doing it, and they all look pretty much the same. So that's sort of defining what that posture is. We recognize that's carry tiger to the mountain. The palms turn out, they cross at the forearm, and you sink the elbow. You go to the corner. It's mapped out to go to what we call the oblique brush knee push. We sit back on the left side and go forward to wind up the waist to the left, turn 180 degrees to do the left side oblique brush knee push. We sit back and we do a right side grasp the sparrow's tail. Now in the long form, the left side doesn't show up, so all we have is grasp the sparrow's tails on the right side. Leading to single whip, that's natural progression, and we have the oblique single whip, turning to fist on the elbow. We saw that earlier. Fist on the elbow, neutral position left, and we're going to start to wind up and go backwards. Repulse the monkey, which is this series of movements, is done 3 times. Every time you step is considered one of those times. So it's a series of 3 steps back. So one of the biggest conflicts in movement is tension. So we try to avoid the stage of excessive tension, that creates some rigidness and stiffness in the body. So moving helps. This is carry tiger to mount with the twist step, opening the stance. It's not a kick, but it looks like a kick when you open to a horse stance. It's holding the ball. We shift to the diagonal flying, and we shift to step up. We press forward with the hand. We continue forward, and we lift and raise the hand, lifting the hand. This is leading us to the other side, lifting up to stork flaps wings. And we relax the shoulders and elbows. We do one brush knee. We're going to sit back and do the insert needle to the bottom of the C, or C bottom. Step forward, fan through the back. So you might recognize these movements from the drills that we do. The drills are part of our fundamental practice, and it's just defining the motion in space. We form the fist and retreat. So retreating is stepping back. Stepping forward is advancing. Divert, lock, and punch. All these motions are created as patterns in the fundamental warm-ups that we did earlier in the class. Grasp the sparrow's tail, hook your wrist, single whip. Single whip is a posture. It looks like this. It's in the holding position, 45 degrees in the arms. Stance is wide like you're sitting on a horse. It's a horse stance. Now this is a set of cloud hands. Practically most of us who've seen Tai Chi would see this movement. It's in all Tai Chi forms. It's a lateral step going sideways. While we step forward and backwards, this is stepping sideways. Later on, you'll see us walking to the corners. It's called turning the corner, or Jade Lady work shuttle. High pat the horse. Right after the first set of cloud hands, we have a series of kicks. The first kick is a right instep kick. And it has a series of hand movements that prepares you for that kicking position. And this is high pat the horse to the left instep kick. We cross behind, spin, and sink down to do a heel kick. It's a left heel kick, followed by a right side brush knee and push. So brush knee and push, in this instance, started off a kick. And the other time, when we saw it earlier, we did 4 of them, it came after stork flaps wings. Here we have another set. And this one's actually called brush down and planting punch. We turn to do a back fist, which is the parry and punch, similar to the one that we did earlier, turning from fan through the back. This is high pat the horse, leading into a series of movements called beat the tiger. It goes into the corner when you cross behind. Now your body is oblique facing this 45-degree corner. You turn to the front corner there. We're going to do a 180-degree turn and face the back corner. Now we square up to the side position, and we're going to do a lower of the hands, cross to a right heel kick with the spreading of the hands. 2 punches to the ears, 2 circular movements that end up about where your temple is, flipping the hands, and a parting leg, it separates, and we do a 360-degree pedaling step where we pivot off the toe and the heel and spread the leg. Now stroke down, parry and punch again. So all these movements are just movements that you would think in application would be strikes. So movements are directional. Movements create directional forces. Cross the arms, leopard and tiger springs to mountain. We bring the hands down and we carry tiger to the mountain, turning to this corner over here. You lift the hands and you turn it out, and then you square the feet. You notice his feet are squaring to a cross arm position. He turns to the oblique for the second set of oblique movements. So the long form is essentially a series of movements done actually repeating it twice. So the long form is long simply because we do it repetitiously, as a duplication of movement. And it's confusing to someone that's first learning because you don't know where these repeats happen and in what order. But there is a logic to the order, and it has picked up as you progress. So this is part the horse's mane. It's done 5 times. The movement you just saw was reversing the ball to a right side diagonal fly, which it's unique that we have that anyways. It's a right side one. Stroking down on the left, we only do that once, then we step up and do 2 more. So stepping up, as I said, was advancing forward. And that's what you do, is you're moving up, you're moving in. Stroke down again to repeat that movement as a redundant motion, as a technique for capturing and maybe diverting. Now this is Jade Lady Work Shuttle. Now it's in this corner. Now Tai Chi is done in an octagon essentially because you go into the corners. And this is spinning around to the opposite corner. You're on the right side leg position. Jade Lady Work Shuttle left side. Right side, sorry. And then you're going to step back or sit back and do the part the horse's mane 1 time. Now you look at the legs. It's a crossing over into the corner. Here we go, Jade Lady Work Shuttle. So there's 4 of these that happen in the form. It's in sometimes I call it the 4 corners because we go into the corner position. Next we have the final Jade Lady Work Shuttle on the right side. And we cap that off with another grasp the sparrow's tail. Partially to lead us back into the single whip position. So once we're in a single whip position, we have the second set of cloud hands. So in the long form, we have 3 sets of cloud hand movements. There's a series of 6 hand movements. They define where the next grouping of movements come into play. So in this set of cloud hands, it's going to lead us to a downward posture. So that's it's about the halfway mark. So we're here. Now we're going to turn. This is snake sticks out tongue. So you press down, you capture, you turn the hands over, go down and up. It's a pull down and a golden cockroach. You're standing on one leg. You lift the knee and you thrust out and kick and then reverse. Second set of repulse the monkeys happens here. First set was when you finished the fist on the elbow earlier. This comes off the golden cockroach and we do repulse the monkey 3 times. Again, we go back and forward. We retreat. The left side goes back. It starts on the left, ends on the left, and you have a series of 3. We turn, pivot, cross the step, raise the hand, carry tiger to the mountain. Hand movements are carry tiger to the mountain. Leg movement is a transition to open the stance. Hold the ball. We slant. We step up. And we do the second set of insert needle, fan to the back, and parry and punch. We bend. Stork flap swings. Turn to brush knee and push. We do 1 brush knee to push as a series with the insert needle. That's a cycling of the movement, but it's also teaching you a series of motions as a setup that leads to the next movement. And that's how we program movement in the body so that it becomes movements in our subconscious. So this is parry and punch again. But, over time you start to recognize what those series of movements are. And then that's really what a name of a posture is. It defines the series of movements just so you can recognize what they are, and you can practice them separately. That's step up to grasp the sparrow's tail. And if you know by now it's going to lead to single whip. Once in the single whip position, we do the third set of cloud hands. Now the third set of cloud hands, same as the other two, starts off looking like a diagonal fly. In the long form, we have a little jog in our movements. It doesn't, so there's really 3 sets of independent motions using the right and left side. So it's a training for the legs, adjustment, and the manipulation of your body form, and allowing you to use those little maneuvers to connect with your opponent if that's what you're using it for. This is palm strikes face. This is turning to parry and punch movement, but actually it's lotus kick. Single lotus. This is a brush knee happening on the left side. It started on the right earlier. And then you go up to punch down to crotch. So that goes about 45 degrees low. You step up again to grasp the sparrow's tail. So that's stepping in, stepping up, intercepting, single whip. Going to the final section of the form, this is going to take us to downward posture again. And it's the second downward posture. You lift up and you pull down. You step up and you go to cross hand. We did golden cockerel earlier. This is turn to ride the tiger. Then it's a palm strikes face, and we transition with a 180-degree turn to a second palm position, double lotus, draw bow to shoot tiger, step up, palm strikes face for the second time. So in the end, it's a lot of those palm strikes face type movements, parry and punch, step up again, there's setting up, high pat the horse, just like when we were doing the kicks. Same motion, step up, 2 vertical triangles to grasp the sparrow's tail. Hook your wrist and you turn back to the front. Hold the ball. Reverse the ball. And turn. Diagonal flying. So, parry and punch, and closing. So, what do we call this? This is called the 108 Movement Tai Chi Form. And, you know, for anyone watching, especially, first time viewer, you might wonder how they remember or memorize this form. So, memory, the way it works is that we have to do it over and over again. Redundancy, keep doing it, and eventually it sinks into the body. But the big memory really starts like you memorize anything else. Memorize a phone number, memorize a poem, memorize any theories or concepts. It's just doing it. Typing is a muscle memory. You know where the keyboard is, you know where the fingers are supposed to go. Playing an instrument is a muscle memory, a sequential muscle memory. Fingers get involved with that, so that's why our fingers have some dexterity. Build that dexterity into the body. That's actually a big process, but we do the same thing. We learn the same way. So building muscle memory, like picking up a cup and drinking, things that you do driving, is actually one of the things that I use as an analogy a lot, because it's multitasking. That's what we do with our body. We multitask doing different things, teaching it precisely where the hands and feet have to go in driving. You know to move from the brake pedal to the gas pedal. You know the steering wheel turns so much to create a certain amount of arc. We move our arms the same way. We go forward and back in the form because we shift. Here we don't really go forward and back. Instead we can lean forward, or you might reach over to do something. But how does that become known? Because you're doing it often. So if you've got a new car, then you have to relearn where all the little instrument things are. And then if a new driver, you don't have a lot of control of the vehicle. like we don't have control of movement. But what's one of the big fears that we have when we drive? For new drivers, number one fear I think for most is getting lost. You get out on the road and you don't know where you're going, right? So what's the biggest fear of a new Tai Chi student? Getting lost in the form. You get into your form, you go, and then you don't know what the next movement is. Then you need help. And that's what the instructors are for. We get out on the road, you're on your own, unless you have someone with you to tell you where you go. The advantage today, we have GPS, and then they have another form of vehicle coming out that's autonomous. But the thing is, I don't know if that's as good as driving yourself. Just like, if you were doing Tai Chi and all you was working off a chip that someone else put in there, it might not be as good because you can't experience, the discovery and the feeling when you're doing things yourself. So I think, some of this advanced technology is going to take away from, the abilities that we have, which already has happened. A lot of our abilities have gone away because we stopped doing them. So we stopped doing them, we've become dysfunctional because we can no longer use our limbs to do things that we're supposed to do. So if you stop cooking, you lose that ability. If you stop exercising, you lose the ability to learn how to use your body. You stop walking, you start to lose your balance. So, all this stuff happens. A deterioration, like age-related degeneration, is you stop working, you stop thinking. So that's why you have to stay busy doing things, use your mind, use your body, and it stays active. So the old adage is, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we have to constantly reinforce what we do. But one of the things that all these instructors would tell you is that you strive for perfection. And what is perfection? Consistency, accuracy, and understanding, right? That understanding helps you to strive for the perfection. So if you watch them do, say, silk reeling. So let's go over some of the exercises in the warm-ups, because if someone new, we just go through them, we really don't know what we're doing. So let's do silk reeling. So we can start off with this position. We turn to the corner and the feet, so the feet shift a little bit. We hold the ball and we step out. We lean forward and we separate the hands. So this is a diagonal flying, right? This is a turning to an upper position. So this position and this position, stork flap swing, is your upper hoop. Slanting down is this. Leaning forward and separating hand is this. So silk reeling is replicating those movements over and over again, but we build one other thing into the silk reeling. It's dimensional change. Everything that we do is three-dimensional and multi-dimensional, depending on how we look at it. We go forward as a splitting action on the slant. We turn our body, we sit back, we chop down like this, where it slants like this, and we turn the body again. And then we open it up again, and then we turn, the hands separate, combine, they turn and they separate. You turn the body, and what do you learn by doing this movement over and over again? You learn that the body is what drives the movement, and the hand creates a pattern, and the hand does some, the body does some, the leg does some. That integration of your body develops a relationship of different components doing different things over and over again, meaning that if my hand is here, I created that. I didn't do this. That becomes a physical isolated movement. So we develop a consistency from here to here. If I didn't shift my legs, my hands would have to do this. If I shift my legs, my hands do a lot less. So if the body's moving and it's programmed, the body can only do this from the legs. On the upper body, the body can only do this. as a turn. When you get to here, the body can only do this. It can go down. And then when you go up, you lift. So for new people, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting all of that to happen. But when we go down, the body rounds. When we lift, the body expands. When you turn, it goes to the right. When we go to the right, we have to turn to the left. The consistency of the slice down and the crossing of the hand has to be tracked so it goes through your center. When your body starts to understand the timing for that movement, then you start to develop accuracy of movement, timing and motion, integration of body. The joints really have to let go. They have to release. So when we go forward, and I talked about this morning, one of the reasons why we can't bend the knees typically or sink in the stance is because your legs are weight bearing. It supports your body weight. If it supports your body weight, the muscles in your legs are already doing something. So they're actually committed. So if you say you go into a stance and they're committed, they're not going to let your knees bend. So if you have trouble with your legs, it's because all your legs are doing is carrying your weight. You're not shifting your weight. You're not manipulating and allowing the ankles to free up. You're not allowing the knee to release. You're not allowing your hips to turn. So you have to learn to develop that timing, as you move. So one of the problems people have, a downward posture. Why can't you get down low enough is because when you go like this thigh is only holding you up so you don't collapse. In order for you to go below this point, you have to release the knee. You have to release the hip. You have to release the ankle. It won't release if it's committed to holding your weight. The only way you can release it is if you start to move. If you don't move, then you won't go down. That's why when you sit on a chair and you grab your knee and you can pull it up to your chest, it's not bearing weight, but your knee will flex. Once you put weight on it, it doesn't want to bend anymore because it wants to carry the load. How does it get below that? You have to release. That's the only way you can go down. But we don't know that. We don't know that because the body doesn't know it. So sinking in the stance is letting the body relax and go into it by allowing the musculature to release and let the skeletal structure form. Most of us don't do that. In fact, you could be practicing and still not do it, but the thing is, an average person would never be able to do that. That's why you have so many knee injuries. Why so many hip injuries? So that's why people have problems with the joints, because if it doesn't want to go down and you make it go down, what do? You stress the joint and you injure yourself and tear the ligaments and tendons. And what happens? It's damage. Then you're going to have that for a lifetime. And you can't fix it. So that's something that people don't understand, even in the field, and say even in the medical field, they probably don't understand that because they're not doing downward postures. They're not stretching and realizing that's what has to happen. Now, once you talk about that, it makes sense. But if you don't talk about it, then you wouldn't even know that. Why don't you have trouble bending your elbow? Because it's not being resisted. It's not weight. I'll put 100 pounds there, and then hold your arm up like that. Now your body would be tense because there's a resistance. Now try to turn. It would resist because it's afraid, right? So that's how you hurt your back when you're carrying a load. So all these things that we're talking about is really parts of functionality and how we work. So, yeah. Okay, so there's a question. Kim's question is it's a question she has related to her and older students. Yeah, because if I'm going to answer, I want them to know what the question is. Yeah. So, uh, okay, so if you release too much and your joint is folded, then it's going to be stressful to overcome the weight. So, because when you go to downward posture, you can't lose all of it. So the initial phase of releasing is here. But if you sustain it at this point, then you can get up from this point. If you go beyond that point, then it changes the body, the mechanics of that joint, and you can't actually recruit enough strength to do it unless unless you use that joint and your leg becomes that much stronger. You have to remember, a lot of legs carry our weight most of the time, 50% of the weight, not really sustaining it over that leg. I'm talking about the average person. We sustain our weight here, and we move through those positions. Holding weight and moving weight in the legs is two different things, because the musculature has to create that sequence of events. So when we're moving like this, it's different from just bending, because your muscles have to release in order for you to turn, and then you turn. So the turning part of it, the torsion part of a rotation, requires many more muscles than just a typical fold. So if you just did a squat, you probably can bear a lot of weight. But when you're squatting and you start to move, if the leg isn't used to it, then it starts to burn and it gets tired very easy because it fatigues. It's not using the right energy in the motion. So when you get too low, you have to build enough strength to get out of it. So it's a strength factor at some point. But if you go too low, you really can't get out anyways, because you have too much load to be lifting. So when we do these kind of things, where we're shifting, there's a real balance between the two sides of the leg. So you have the inner group and on both sides. They have to kind of compensate and yield to the other side. But don't forget, you're still bearing weight. So there's going to be a conflict, and it won't want to do that. So if you do a lot of that, you're going to get really sore on the inner thighs. Why? Because, there's joints and there's muscles, but the muscles are the ones that respond when they're not used to it. The joint is, probably compromised because of, the misalignment and the musculature not working correct way. So if your knee has a problem, it's probably you have to look at your hip and you have to look at your ankle. So if 3 joints are doing it, it's better than 1, right? So, because our ankle can turn and turn, so you say, well, you got to line up your knee over your toe. Well, if it's bearing weight and loaded and you're doing a squat with those machines, they say line it up with the space between your toes. But when you're in movement and you're using your knee, those muscles have to work in harmony, so you won't allow the joint to come out of alignment and then to torque your knee the wrong way. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't get injured, but we're doing it slowly. So because we're doing it slowly, the chance of you doing something as seriously as getting hit like a football player is not going to be the same, because you'll stop before, because it starts to hurt. You'll stop before that happens. But a lot of people just kind of wear out the joint because the body is too tense. It's the shoulder, the elbows, all this. So that's, when we do Tai Chi, we try to move the whole body. We try to control every aspect of the body, every joint, every muscle, every tendon, ligament. So alignment of the body is really getting our ligaments and tendons to develop a sensitivity to where the body should be. So everything that you do, if you don't pay attention to where the alignment is, and how it happens, you won't have good body form because it doesn't recognize it. So when we know the postures, we always strive for specifics, right? Eye level, shoulder width, 45 degrees, center line, elbow down, flat elbows out to the side, vertical arm down. So vertical elbow and vertical elbow is the same. This is the same vertical elbow. This vertical elbow is here. This vertical elbow is here. This is your first natural position. That's your second natural position. This one you're born with. This one we created. My teacher used to say, this position your mother gave you. This is handed down from your mother. That's how he put it. It's just a saying, but the thing is, when you're born and you don't have any strength in your body, and you were just hanging from the top of your head, where do you think your arms are going to be? Out here? But they're going to be here, right? So that's what they say, when you're doing Tai Chi or you lift, it's like you're suspended from above, as if hanging from above. That's the vertical spine. Because if you got a hook here and just hung from the top there like a puppet, everything has to hang vertically down. That's how your body should be in the vertical position, as if it's hanging. But it doesn't really hang because you're standing on the ground and your feet is actually pushing into it, and there's an alignment. So when you align your body, what do you think? When you align your body, it's the most effortless position to carry your load, your weight. What happens when you tilt? Your back gets compromised here, right? So it starts to tense. And, everybody's slightly different in size and shape, so then it varies, depending on how you. But you have to look for the most natural stacking of your skeleton to get your joints to hang freely, to get your spine in a correct position. Tai Chi, you should have a vertical spine so that you spin and you pivot off that point. And when you sit like this, the spine actually should go to the heel of the back foot, depending on where you're going and what you're doing with the movements. So the twisting and turning that we have, and we do a lot of that, is all built inside the body posture. So anyways, any questions? No. So this is just information that I talk about in these classes because, while we're visually capturing everything, maybe 80% of the information is being learned visually, how do you know what to target? How do you know what to strive for? What's integration of body? Where's that alignment? If when you go to these positions and you go to these positions, it's the same. It has to duplicate. It has to. When a hand goes here, it goes there. It doesn't matter how you do it. It goes there. There. It's here. It goes there. So you can see that if you took the picture, it's going to be pretty close, probably within millimeters of position. Because over the decades and decades of doing it, you know that position. It's in you. So it's just, while I talk about this all the time, I know from experience that that's really what happens. Even though they might, tell you the science and that this is what's happening, can you replicate it? A guy that's doing research on that kind of muscle memory can't do it. He knows a theory behind it, but you can't do it because his body doesn't know it. So what you know here isn't really what you know here. But what we do, we know it here, and we capture the theory from the guys that actually know it here, right? So you have to kind of use their insights to show us that this is how it works. Because in the old school, you would just do it and you just assume that the teacher was telling you the truth. And then you can sometimes be misled. But at the same time, when you go through it, you really begin to understand that that's what happens. So just standing in a position like this. Why do we stand like this? Why do we stand like this? Why do we stand like that? It's called standing meditation. It's called using your mind and stillness, or no mind and stillness. So what happens is not You're not standing like that because you want to stand there for 3 days. You're standing like that so your body starts to recognize position and what erroneous muscles are being used that are not necessary. It becomes natural. It becomes something that you can feel. So when the hand comes to here, so when do we go through there? This is kind of an oblique, right? When you cross the hands, it's kind of there. So we learn these positions. But when you're on single whip and you go like this, and then you go like this, and you go like this, and you go like this, that's your first position. When you go like this, that's what you'll learn. If you can't find that, you didn't learn it here. Or you didn't learn it. You have to have some way that you learn it. This and this is hold the ball. But where did you learn that? You learn it from your hoop. Level. Here. Here. You learn this, but what do you have to do when you only have one of them? It goes to here. Because there's your center line. When you go like this goes to your center line. So where's your center line? The wrist or the thumb? It's your guideline. So, your anatomy has reference points that you use to decide if it's correct or not correct because of the consistency of it. So if I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. So when I push, brush knee and push, you have two reference points on the push. If the index finger is vertical, then your elbow would be down. When you turn to a V, your elbow will be slightly in. Those two positions is what's going to determine if the elbow is in the right position. But knowing that as a principle, you're not thinking of that when you're doing it all the time. But if you've been doing it and you've referenced, then you look, you say, okay, this is vertical. Okay, then you look at your elbow and you say, then you know that the position is correct. So that's how we use it as a cross-reference, and then you know. Self-correcting is a very advanced level of fixing because we can fix the big stuff. We can't fix the little stuff until the body has actually gone through the process and learned it. So there's no secrets in that regard because even if you're told, you won't be able to do it because the body doesn't know it. So that's where people have conflicts in mind about what you're telling them because they'll say, oh, why didn't you tell me that earlier? Well, it was told to you many, many times. You just didn't figure it out. So there's so many students have held grudges against teachers because they felt that they weren't told correctly. But even if you're told, you don't always absorb it and understand it. So what crosses through the brain, goes in one ear and goes out the other, is kind of what happens. It doesn't really, but it just passes through because you didn't hold it because you didn't understand it or didn't have a value to it at that point. But just remember, anything you hear, you have to store it. And then as you progress, you have to interpret it, and then you make the judgment call as whether it's supposed to be right or wrong. But that judgment call is going to be sometimes right, sometimes wrong. Sometimes what you thought was wrong might end up being correct. Okay, so that's about it for today. A lot of talk, not as much action, huh? Anyways, this is like a theory class because it's, you've been doing it a while. All right, we'll see you next time. Hope everyone got something out of that. Pegger just showed up.